Okay, so if you're a real estate photographer and mostly you're shooting homes and helping real estate agents, I really recommend that you reach out to commercial real estate agents and work with apartment managers and people that work with commercial real estate. Expanding your niche is gonna be a great idea. So let's jump into it. I'll go through everything I do to capture apartment buildings and to keep my clients happy. When it comes to shooting commercial real estate, honestly, it's not that much different. It's just a larger space, right? So a lot of the same gear is gonna apply. Today I'm shooting with the Sony a7S III. The lens I'm using is the Sony FE-PZ 16-35G. It's a great lens. So the whole setup itself is really nice and I can run around with it for a few hours on the gimbal without getting tired out. The gimbal specifically that I'm using is going to be the DJI RS3. I think it's around $500 or $600. Now, in terms of drone, I've got the DJI Mavic 3. I've got the polarizing filter on here to get rid of reflections and stuff. I've got a door stop, very handy. I've got a larger telephoto lens, which can come in really, really nicely if I need to get more detail shots, especially you've got great views of Mount Rainier over here. So being able to zoom in and get those kind of like really clean cinematic close-ups of those things that I'm sure that the apartment loves to advertise is really nice. So I'm gonna get started setting all this up and then we'll get started shooting. Okay, so really quickly before we get into shooting, I'm gonna cover two things. First, the gimbal settings and the camera settings that I've got set up, and then also putting together the amenities list or the shot list for the building. First, I wanna talk about the gimbal. So I have the custom settings on the gimbal down extremely low. So you have slow, medium, and fast follow speed. And honestly, I just went to custom and changed mine to 5, which I think is slower than even the slow option. And having that set up as super duper slow allows it to, just gives it a really cinematic look. And every time I go and shoot with it, I make sure to calibrate first. Oh, another thing I love about the DJI gimbal is they call it the Z trigger right here. So the Z trigger I have set so that basically it doesn't move the camera. You can, do everything you want, go every direction, but there's no movement. And so when I'm doing my shots, I just hit the Z trigger and pull that down and just slide right in. Or, if I'm going left to right, I slide right across. Or if I'm shooting photos, I hit the Z trigger and it kills all the deadband that may happen over the course of the HDR. And so the photos are even more crisp than before. Okay, so now the gear is all set up. We're just about ready to shoot. But of course, the last and most important thing is to have a solid shot list. So for this one, we've got the lobby, the fitness center, the pet spa for all the pooches out there. We've got a rooftop deck, we've got bike storage, and then also on top of that, you wanna make sure that you're capturing the model unit. Yeah, having that shot list ready to go is super duper helpful and will definitely keep you rolling and in line and making sure that you're capturing all the right angles in all the right spots. Anybody home? Okay. When I roll into the model unit, the first thing I do after setting up my camera is just make sure that it's picture perfect. Much better. So I kind of just look for the main things that are going to be an issue going forward. These are all the little like design things that might pop up. So you're just trying to make everything look really nice and symmetrical. So yeah, everything right now is looking really good. Then it's finally time to shoot. What I shoot in typically is you could do 4K 60, you could do 4K 24, but as long as you're doing 4K, it's definitely gonna look the best. I like to set my focus to manual, and I set it to about 4 to 8 meters out when I'm shooting inside. I don't use autofocus because it can kind of jump around as you're shooting. Doesn't look great. When I am shooting, I like to have grid lines on, and not just rule of third grids, but like a full grid where it has all of these, because then you can really line up your verticals and make sure those look nice and crispy and clean. I make sure I've got the auto level or the digital level on inside the camera. That way I know if I'm pointed up or down, or if I'm a little bit crooked or not. And then when it comes to shooting the photos, because I shoot both the photo and the video at nearly the same time, I've got it set to HDR, continuous bracket, 2 exposure value over 3 images. My white balance, I typically set to auto. It's not usually an issue. With that being said, I think it's time to start shooting. Okay, so I'm setting up here for the first shot. It's just gonna be a nice push in through here, and what do I see? Boom. The designer decides to put up a mirror. So something to be highly aware of, like acutely aware of every time, is reflections. If you get reflections or shadows or any sort of, you can see the filmmaker in the shot, just watch out. It's super duper hard. You don't want that to happen. So it's just a good reminder is always be aware of the reflections, because you will definitely end up in them if you are not careful. Now this is tough because I have a lot of light coming in from the window, bright sunny day. Also the bathroom is a little bit dark and orange, so it's not absolutely perfect, Finish that. Okay, now I'm gonna move to photos. Boom, just like that. So that first shot was not incredible, but it's a good intro shot to the model unit. Get the photo. I'm gonna do a nice straight push in. And this apartment is absolutely tiny. I think they call it a micro studio or something. We're not even sure where, there's not even a bed in here, which is kind of weird. Push in a little bit. One thing that's also great to do is to zoom in, because normally I'm gonna be shooting at like 16 or 18, which is nice and wide, but occasionally I like to zoom in to maybe like 24 or 28 or 35, because that's gonna give you more of like a higher end like cinematic look, because it creates a little bit of bokeh, adds a little bit like, it's really good for detail shots, right? So it's more of a body movement and a little bit of a wrist movement here. So I'm really doing my best to like get as many awesome angles of this itty bitty tiny space. Now we'll shoot the kitchen by turning around. Watch out for the reflection here. Okay, so here's another example of reflections, because we've got sunlight behind us, this big window, and then like a big TV, right? So if I'm shooting photos, I'm not worried about it because the editor will end up just blacking out the TV, so it's not a big deal. But the thing is that when I'm shooting video, I'll have to be super duper aware of that issue, right? And I feel like we've captured this angle, all these different angles, pretty much all we can get for this area. I'll capture the little office space, which is basically just this one corner. So what's handy about the DJI gimbal is that on the side, I change it from pan follow mode to FPV, which just is wild. So boom, just down like that. And then I just put it back to pan follow mode, just like that. Then I can get that cool top down shot. Not incredible, so maybe what I'll do is open up this little book, give it a vibe here. So now we can zoom in. This is another good time to use the zoom in, go from manual to single shot autofocus, get focus on the giraffe, go back to manual focus, increase my exposure a little bit to compensate, and then do a little orbit here. Now we're moving on to shooting the bathroom. And as you can see, the white balance has a lot of trouble, because if I'm over here, then the bathroom becomes like really orange because the light in the bathroom is orange, versus if I push in to right about here, then it auto white balances to inside the bathroom and nice and white. So just something to be aware of, because you don't want the white balance to be super duper changing as you're moving in and out, right? We are all done inside the model unit. Let's step outside. Okay, so when we go from inside to outside, it is crazy different for the exposure values. So what I like to do is get rid of fold in the LCD screen, and I basically just go straight to the eyepiece. That way I can get a much better idea of what the correct exposure is gonna be. Now, another thing to watch out for is that you wanna move your focus out a touch so that the focus is a little bit further out from the 4 to 8 meters. You also, if you're using a circular polarizer, you wanna make sure your blues aren't getting way too blue. They're pretty even across, and you don't have one really dark blue and one really light blue, which can happen. You also want to take a look at windows, because if you're using a circular polarizer, sometimes the windows will end up like purple or like teal, just because of if they have a UV coating or whatever. So just, these are all things to keep in mind as you're shooting. I'll do a shot as I introduce the outdoors, right? So just kind of pushing through the window or pushing through the door. And just nice push in. Show off that vista, nice. What I did was just capture this direction, because one, I know that they're gonna love to sell that it's got water views, so definitely wanna get some great shots of that. Over here, because I was dealing with the reflections, what I did was basically just hid behind this potted plant. And then what else I'm gonna do is I'm gonna zoom in to 35 again, make sure my focus is looking nice. And you can see Mount Rainier off in the distance, so definitely wanna get some shots of that. I'll flip flop the other way, get a zoomed in shot of the water in the background over there. So recording, Z button, body movement as I push up. Simple as that. So cool, so we're all done with the model unit. Let's jump into the fitness center, the pet spa, and all the rest of the stuff. Moving on to fitness. I guess I could use the weight room. Okay, so now we're in the fitness room, and remember I was talking about the door stops? These are key because right now this room is extremely warm and super stuffy. Bam, good to go. Best $5 purchase. When I walk into the fitness center, usually they're pretty much good to go. But the few things that I do is to just kind of organize and make sure it looks absolutely perfect. So I'm gonna turn on the lights. And again, just making sure that everything looks absolutely picture perfect and really nice. And for a space like this fitness center, I'll probably get like a max of like 2 or 3 shots. I won't go crazy overboard. Okay, so now that we're back inside, I will move my settings back down to F9, my ISO, or bring it up to 1250 using the CPL that the floors are looking super nice. And then really it's like a full body movement. Fitness center looks really big and expansive. Push in. Now, of course, I probably don't want to get a shot like this because we have the crazy mirrors over there. But if I get a little bit over here in this corner and just slide along the wall, and that gives it a lot of depth, which is pretty cool. Now we'll pop out onto the deck. This is all messed up. After we've revealed the fire pit, burned my fingers off, just like Men in Black. Now everything looks great to shoot. So it's a beautiful, beautiful location, gorgeous deck. Again, I'll probably just get like 1 or 2 shots out here. It's not like I need to go overboard getting a ton of shots, but it is a really cool amenity, so I definitely want to show it off. Probably zoom in a little bit and kind of show off the fire pit. So one thing that I definitely want to mention is that when I'm getting these shots, generally it's not like an arm movement, but rather like I'm locking off my arms and moving as a whole body, like from the hips and from the legs, just simply because it's a lot more stable, right? So that's something to think about and something to improve upon, because the more stable you can get your footage straight out of camera, the less you have to use warp stabilizer, the better the footage looks overall. So it's a little pro tip for you guys. Okay, we're all done with the fitness center. We're done with the outdoor deck. So I didn't necessarily have it on the shot list to capture these little kind of in-between areas of the apartment building, but definitely I'll go through and capture those just because it looks cool and it's just extra little pieces to grab. So this kind of like little hallway chill spot. You've also got this cool artwork over here by the elevator, so I'll get that as well. We've got our shot list here. So we've got the fitness center is done, the model unit is done, so I like to check them off as I'm going. Bam. Okay, so next stop we can do the pet spa, the rooftop deck, and the bike storage in the lobby. To the top. Ooh, so fancy. Look at these panoramic views, the mountain, the water, the other mountains. These pillows are all crazy. Leaving the zipper up at the top? Come on, man. Can't do that. Put the zipper on the bottom. Pro tip right there for you. We'll go through, make sure this is looking clean and organized. So yeah, we're all Gucci for exterior rooftop shots. Let's get it. Bada boom, bada boom. Get some shots of the barbecue, foreground of the garden. It looks like we got some peppers here. Get a cool little shot of the pepper. And I'll use my autofocus trick. So switch to autofocus. We've got the water in the background. Oh, make sure you get your autofocus back to, or your focus back out after getting a detail shot. This is something that messes me up all the time. I'll get a close up and then shoot for a few shots after that and then be like, oh, those are all out of focus. I have to get them again. Just something to be aware of. I'm not really getting a ton of like walkthrough style shots where I'm really going here and then there and then here and then there all in one shot. It's very like intentional. I get one angle and just push into it or pull back from it or slide, you know? Try and really reduce the amount of movement that's happening in camera, and the final shot will appear to be a lot sharper, because as you're like moving around, it's like those pixels can be like blurring and stuff like that. So just something to be aware of. And this is gonna be a good opportunity here because I want to show the fireplace that we've got as well as the couch. But really you're just trying to capture like little vignettes of spaces that the property manager can use to advertise and sell the space more effectively, right? And what's really nice is once you get all your stuff set up, all your settings are kind of in line, you're in the mood, you're in the zone, the flow state starts happening. And that's when it's really quick and it's just like you start knocking out shots. Then it's just like pop, 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 pop. And that's when it gets really fun. So bangers only, bangers only. Okay, moving right along. Now it's time for the pet spa. Cute little spot to wash your pooch. We'll get maybe 1 or 2 shots in here and then we'll move on to the next spot. Show off the washing station for your dog. Bring your dog over here, get him washed. One other thing I did see, and it's not on the list, but it looks like we've got electric vehicle charging stations, so I'll probably get just a close-up shot of that. The lobby is usually a really good time to really try and flex your sort of interior photography muscle and capture a lot of cool angles, because generally the lobby is gonna be a place where they go all out. I would say go a little overboard when you're capturing the lobby, just because you know that they're gonna love to use those shots as they bring people in and advertise, right? Yeah, let's get to it. It's time to capture the lobby shots. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom into something nice and sexy like 20 millimeter. All right, just kind of fly through the chairs. This looks really great from this angle with all the cool furniture. Show off the cool funky chairs. Slide over. So this is kind of an interesting situation. This is like a space that is perhaps like an event space or something. It's not really included in the amenities list. It looks kind of like half finished. You can see that there's like plastic on the lights and stuff like that. There's like packaging in the corner. While I'm here, I'm gonna capture it because if I need it, it'll be nice to have. And if I don't need it, I can always just not put it in the video I know that there may be situations on your commercial real estate shoots where you walk into a new building and you're like, what is this? But I would say capture it. And if you don't need it, much better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Okay, so we've got the lobby, we've got the pet spa, we've got the model unit, we got it all. The last thing that we gotta do is capture some exteriors, some nice wide exteriors showing the building. Let's jump into it. All right, so when I'm outside, definitely gotta capture the signage, which is key. And what I like to do when I'm capturing the signage is kind of get underneath an awning, and then you slide out to kind of reveal it. It has a cool look to it, so that's pretty sweet. Gorgeous. Capture a photo from about the same angle. Maybe get a couple different versions of that shot. I'm gonna get some shots of the front entrance here. So what I'm gonna do, pop out the LCD screen, get nice and low, and then I can kind of like push in like this. Lift and rise. Bam, gorgeous. This car to my right is in the reflection, so I'm also gonna move over here to the right side. And I like to overshoot the entrance a little bit because if you don't have a fire entrance shot, then they're gonna judge you. One thing you can do is go further back and pretend like it's a detail shot where you get far away, you get some nice tree foreground, but then you're zoomed into like 35. Push in, gorgeous. Get that super artistic signage shot. All right, here's a good angle. I got far enough away that I can get the whole building in the frame, even at 7x, and that looks awesome because then you see like really the water, it feels like it's just right behind it. We've even got a little cute sailboat right there, which is pretty cool. Just like that, easy peasy. Now we want to get a similar shot, but with the mountain in the background, so I'll go a little bit to a different angle, line everything up. Oh, I gotta be way over there. All right, guys, final shot has been captured. Hope you enjoyed everything. Thank you again for following along. It's been a lot of fun. Hope you've learned a lot, like I said, and if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out. Please like, comment, subscribe, share, and hopefully you can get out there and capture your own commercial real estate stuff or your own real estate photos and videos. Enjoy.